So, what does it mean to grow as a leader or to become a leader? So, very often people will say things like you have to uh, get the skills to become a leader or get a mentor, maybe pick up a book or just educate yourself. But that's a very blanket statement to say those things and just be like, all right, the person I told to do this now understands exactly what I mean. So what I'm going to be talking about in this video is kind of what you should be looking at or who you should be looking or who you should be following as far as their influence to become a better leader. So for myself, when I was starting off, one of my main mentors was Gary Vanyerchuck. If you don't know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, he's actually a social media marketer who, when he started out at a very, very young age, he just understood business. Business and numbers just made sense to him. When he was 8 years old, he actually, instead of having a lemonade stand, he convinced his friends to have multiple lemonade stands, and he was a manager who took a percentage of each of their earnings. So instead of working one lemonade stand, he technically had his finger in at 5 or 6 different lemonade stands and made more money by doing less work, which is pretty incredible for a young kid to do. By the age of 13, he actually had $30,000 in cash just by trading baseball cards. He went around to different what's it called, different shows, and he would go around and see all the different vendors and see how much money they were selling the exact same card for, and he would one up them or he'd undercut them by $1. So everybody would come to him to get that exact same card. He was presenting the best value for their money, and because of that, he had made 30 grand at the age of 13. I don't know anybody that's made that much money on their own with no influence from their parents, no money given to them, and they aren't already famous or anything like that. But as far after that, he opened up a YouTube channel called Wine Library TV, where he would literally sit in front of a camera and have different types of wine and pair them with food. And because of how how deep he was with wine, how much knowledge he had on wine, he actually got a huge following from this. And within, I think it was within a year or 2 years, just from doing this YouTube channel, he ended up opening a business that had made $4.5 million in 2 years. So this guy, as a social media marketer now, this is several years later, this guy has almost made over I think his business is about worth $1 billion or almost $1 billion. His goal, his vision in life is to buy the New York Jets. If you ever check out this guy on YouTube or Instagram or anything like that, he talks about it a lot. He's a huge Jets fan. But this guy, when I first saw him, he he just talks about the hustle, the grind. He actually gives you the tools necessary for whatever your business is to be successful. He talks about how to have engaging posts on Instagram or engaging posts on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it might be. And one of his main philosophies he talks about, and he actually wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. So what that means is give, 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 and then ask. Present so much value that the person's almost guilted into wanting to buy what you're selling. By the time he comes to give them the right hook or the punchline or the sale, they're like, of course, you've already done so much for me. How could I possibly say no? But for us, it might not actually be the sale that is the punchline. The punchline might actually be the invite to come hear about the opportunity. And since they're so open and welcome for it, by the time they go and see the opportunity, they're already on board. Before the presentation or anything is already even finished, they're on board. This guy is all about that presenting value philosophy. So definitely worth checking out. I'll put a link to him in the description as far as Instagram or YouTube. He has a thing called the Ask Gary V Show on YouTube. It's very, very insightful. You can pretty much start out, there's hundreds of episodes of it, but you can start anywhere you want. You'll find an interesting tagline and you can just watch the videos and check them out for sure. Another guy I have watched for a long time is named Eric Thomas. So Eric Thomas is most famous for the line, I want to succeed as bad as I want to breathe. I don't know if you've heard that line before, that came from him. He is all about the mindset, the mentality it takes to become successful. This was a guy who was homeless. He was kicked out of his house when he was 18 years old. He ended up going to, he's the only person in his family to end up getting a degree and a master's in college in the States. He actually grew up in Detroit. And it took him 12 years to get a degree that was a 4-year degree. So this guy is all about the perseverance and getting the mindset that you need necessary to understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So I would highly suggest this guy gets you fired up too. He's hype. So if you take a look at him, you're gonna get exactly what you need as far as understanding why you started off in the first place and where you're trying to go with this. Another mentor that I've looked at a lot is actually Anthony Robbins or Tony Robbins, and this guy is more so about relationships. He does talk about business as well, but a lot of social interaction, human interactions, why people do what they do, and the patterns within people, and why they will act a certain ways, why they will say yes to certain things based on their history or their past or how that person operates. So this is another guy that is heavily influential that I would suggest taking a look at. But one of the biggest things with becoming a leader, and the same thing you can see across with all three of those guys, is their consistency. Consistency is the biggest thing that there is as far as business, period. If you have an amazing pitch, you have the best tools, you have the best team in the world, and you're charismatic to the moon and back. It doesn't matter who you talk to, it's amazing, and they always say yes. If you only do it once every 2.5 months, your business is just not going to grow. You have to stay consistent, especially if you're on fire like that. You should be talking to people every single day, chipping away at it every single day. Consistency. So if it's posting every single day, having a conversation with somebody every single day, learning something about one of the products every single day, even having conversations with your leaders. It doesn't have to always be mentors like this on YouTube, but just like having conversations with your leaders within It Works, and educating yourself as much as possible all the time. I highly suggest looking into these leaders or these guys on YouTube because they are going to help you understand why it is important to become a leader. You will see these guys, the amount of money that they make, the knowledge that they have. They all carry themselves in a very similar way as far as saying this is what it takes to become successful. If it's going to be their determination, which is huge, their hustle towards putting their head down, not caring what anybody thinks. This is me. I don't care what you think about me. I have to do this for myself because at the end of the day, your influence cannot be my determining factor on whether or not I'm going to make this happen or not. And of course, like I said before, their consistency. So I highly recommend checking those guys out. Once again, that was Gary Vanyerchuck, Eric Thomas, and Tony Robbins or Anthony Robbins. So like I said, I'll put a link to all those guys in the description. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it at this point. But yeah, 100% take a look at those guys, and that will help you very quickly as to becoming a leader, or at least gain the knowledge necessary to become a leader.